Pleasant Sabbath morning to everyone. Welcome to another Sabbath school discussion. I'm happy to see each and every one of you. Before we begin, I invite you to kneel with me as we approach the throne of grace. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for your goodness and your mercy toward us, and for the privilege of being found in your courts on this yet another Sabbath morning. We thank you for bringing us safely through this week, amidst all the trials, all of the storms, and everything that would have transpired. We thank you for your faithfulness. As we continue looking at practical godliness, we ask that you will guide our discussion, inspire our thoughts, and edify us in the truth as we share for Christ's sake. Amen. Now, last week we're still looking at chapter 16 in the study book, and we started looking at the whole concept of time and how our time should be spent. And we saw that our time belongs to God. This was on page 163. And that it should not be wasted. And we asked the question as we ended the last time. But before we get back to that question, I wanted someone to volunteer and just read for me the last 3 paragraphs in that section. So it would be the middle of page 164, right down to the top of page 165. Can I have someone read those 3 paragraphs? The paragraph beginning, "Life is too solemn." Any volunteers? Morning.
Absorbed in temporal and earthly matters, in the treadmill of care and anxiety for the things that are but an atom in comparison with the things of eternal interest. Yet God has called us to serve Him in the temporal affairs of life. Diligence in this work is as much a part of true religion as is devotion. The Bible gives no endorsement to idleness. It is the greatest curse that afflicts our world. Every man and woman who is truly converted will be a diligent worker. Upon the right improvement of our time depends our success in acquiring knowledge and mental culture. The cultivation of the intellect need not be prevented by poverty, humble origin, or unfavorable surroundings. Only let the moments be treasured. A few moments here and a few moments there that might be frittered away in aimless talk. The morning hours so often wasted in bed. The time spent in traveling on trams or railway cars, or waiting at the station, if you say bus stop or inside the bus stand. The moments of waiting for meals, waiting for those who are tardy in keeping an appointment. If a book were kept at hand, and these fragments of time were improved in study, reading, or careful thought, what might not be accomplished? A resolute purpose, persistent industry, and careful economy of time will enable men to acquire knowledge and mental discipline, which will qualify them for almost any position of influence and usefulness. It is the duty of every Christian to acquire habits of order, thoroughness, and dispatch. There is no excuse for slow bundling at work of any character. When one is always at work and the work is never done, it is because mind and heart are not put into the labor. The one who is slow and who works at a disadvantage should realize that these are faults to be corrected. He needs to exercise his mind in planning how to use the time so as to secure the best results. By tact and method, some will accomplish as much in 5 hours as others do in 10. Christ's Object Lesson, pages 342 to 344.
Okay, thanks very much. Now, the paragraph that we started off this morning said that the temporal things, are but an atom in comparison with the things of eternal interests. And the last time we asked a specific question, more to do with the last paragraph that was read. And I'm not sure if perhaps what's transpiring in our world in terms of the pandemic and in terms of the individual workplaces, every individual may have a different experience. But the question that was posed had to do with the statement, someone who is constantly at work, constantly working on a particular task, that person may honestly think that there's no bungling on their part, there's no time wasting on their part. They may be bogged down. And here the statement is saying it is because their mind and heart may not be put into the labor. So the question that was asked the last time, where do we find that balance? Because you may have the situation where, as the statement rightly says, there may be many faults on our individual parts to be corrected, but for the person who may come to you and say that that is not their issue, is it sufficient to say that perhaps the cares of this life play more of a role in that person's life compared to the other person? Do we understand the question? We have a situation today where persons are losing their jobs. For those who have kept their jobs, they may find themselves bogged down. They are trying their best to get their task done. So there's no dishonoring as far as they're concerned before God. And here we are told that And it's not necessarily that they're doing one particular task, but you understand the point. They're doing their work. Whether it's one task a day or 10 tasks, the point is that they're doing what they're contracted to do. Where do we set the boundary, the balance? Where do we find that balance? That is the first question on the floor, which you can think about. Going back to the first paragraph, it said that the temporal things are but an atom. Now, I'm not sure if you can comprehend the size of an atom, but the atom is not something that can be seen with the naked eye. So, if you were to consider a speck of dust, which you can see, and compare it to some other larger object, and see how much smaller that speck of dust is. So take, for instance, this microphone. A speck of dust is probably, I will venture to say, thousands of times smaller than this microphone in front of me. And an atom is 1,000 times smaller than the speck of dust. And here we are told that the things which we find ourselves absorbed in, whether it is the temporal affairs of this life, whatever it may be, is but an atom in comparison to the things of eternity. So what does that tell us, brethren, in terms of where our focus should be at this time? When we read the accounts in the scriptures, we see how persons would have spent their time. We have that on record. And we know and we believe that we are living in the toenails of time, to use that expression. So how much more is it incumbent upon us to manage our time? There was a particular phrase that was used, careful economy of time. How much more important is it for us to manage well our time in these last days? Any thoughts on the question that was asked? Again, I trust that we understand the question. We live in a world today where persons are experiencing stress in the workplace. Can we go to such a person and say to them, it is because their mind and their heart is not put into their work, and that is the reason why they're not getting through in the office or whatever line of work they're engaged in? Or do we jump on the other side of the coin and say that that person should not allow the cares of this world to bog them down? Any thoughts? Remember, brethren, we're looking at practical godliness. These are things that affect us in our daily walk. Sometimes I don't know about many of you, but for me personally, there are some days, and this week was one of them, that you feel as though you were just throwing the towel and walk away. You know, so I'm asking the question because I'm sure that I'm not the only person who may experience such. Brother Peter?
Good morning.
Good morning.
As a Christian, and we know a person get bogged down with work in the sense of stress and so forth, I feel as a Christian, I need the person of Christ in the sense of telling that Christ is the perfect, the person that would help them along their being. You know, once we is Christian, we shall lead the person to God, and that there should be the situation to solve the situation. You understand? But when the person who work to do, they should do it the best of their ability. And if they do not love the work that they are doing, they should leave the work that they are doing and get other job. You understand? But when the person is about to work, we shall lead the person to Christ, pray with the individual that their stress life will not be like so heavy. You know, so I mean, I don't know what the words are actually say, but and bring up property. But I mean, like, if me a person shall lead the person to Christ, and that should be the situation to solve the problem.
Okay. So, Brother Peter, if the person tells you that it's not an issue of not loving their job, the issue is not the job.
If it's not loving their job, if it's like enough work that you gotta do, I'll just tell them that. I feel you should assist the person, and if your work is finished, but the love of God in your heart, you should assist the person in their job. You know, assist the person in their work. Once your work is finished, assist the person in their work, that they will make it more easier, not only leading to God, but also help the person along the line with the work that they have to do.
Okay. Okay. Thanks very much. Any other thoughts? So bear in mind that as the first paragraph that Elder Graves read, it says, "Yet God has called us to serve him in the temporal affairs of life." Diligence in this work is as much a part of true religion as is devotion. So we are not discussing something that is out in the ether. Okay? So share your thoughts. Now is the time to share. Please don't hold back. Any comments? Any questions?
Morning, church. Thanks. Yes, that line, diligence in this work is as much a part of true religion as devotion. I wonder sometimes if work seems like a stress or a bother because there is no due diligence in applying ourselves to what the task at hand requires of us. Even though we are being rewarded for it in terms of the contract we might have signed in having a job. But when you look at the whole idea of diligence as it applies to our character and the development of our character, it is no difference in how we approach the diligence of the task at hand that we have allowed ourselves to be our daily, what you call daily work. Oh, that's not the thought I wanted to express. The daily work that we have to do certainly must be approached with diligence, although we are getting paid for it. Because I think what the writer wants to highlight is not so much the diligence to the work so as to be paid for it, but the diligence to the work so as to develop the character of devotion in a true manner of what we should do when we have the task to be completed. So the task being diligently pursued will help us to achieve a character that is also a character that builds true devotion towards the kingdom and the task of building the character that is needed for the kingdom. So when someone looks on and see the diligence that is being applied in our daily task, even though we're getting paid for it, they will see that there is true devotion on the part of us who apply due diligence to the task at hand, so that that due diligence will be an example of true devotion of our character as Christians that they look on and see. So I think that is what the highlight of diligence in this work as a means of a true part of religion is saying to me. And then on the other hand, notice that diligence or diligence that is lacking certainly will make for idleness. It will bring mediocrity. And therefore, if it will bring some form of mediocrity and idleness, it means that we are not being as fulfilling in our task as we can be.
Okay. Thanks very much. Brother Andrew?
Good morning.
Morning.
Talk diligence and commitment. I just go through a lot of stress during the day, being committed to a work that I love and don't get no credit for it. And it don't be easy. No, you're committed to something, and when you are being downlooked and trampled upon, it's not easy to continue going work, knowing that when you go work, you can encounter some problem. Even if you're right, you're wrong. And when the man that you thought is wrong, he's always right. So it's not easy to know that you're doing a job, committed to a job, and yet still no credit is given. But when a problem arrives, first person to call is the person that them trample upon. Now, I made it in my mind I can't take it no more. I say 5 days of stress is too much. So is it wrong for me to say, look, work 4 days a week to relax yourself, relax your mind? That's just something I want to put out there.
Okay. Thanks. I trust that everyone heard the question on the floor. Any responses? Is it wrong in such a situation to either walk away or to decide to take on lesser of a burden? Or should a person see things differently?
Good morning.
Good morning.
We who have committed ourselves to God, we have to believe that God allows us to be in places that will develop our characters in the best way possible according to our temperaments. And if we believe that, well, we are here and God allowed us to be here, and we focus instead on what we need to develop under God. Stressful conditions, yes, but that is also your frame of mind and looking at things. But if we believe God has placed us there and not somewhere else, perhaps if we start thinking this way, we could start looking at things differently. What is it in my character that is not developed that I have to face this thing every single day? So he didn't place Brother Andrew in some office to sit and work. He placed him there in a job he likes. People around may be different and may cause various challenges. But perhaps not just Brother Andrew, myself, whoever, wherever we are, we all get stresses of one type or other. But perhaps if we sit and think and decide and realize, well, God has a purpose right here for me. What is it? And ask him to open our eyes that we may see. We may begin one day to look at those things in a different light. And when we do, we may start making steps toward better character development, more patience. He might need to develop more patience, and that might be the way God sees him to develop it. For me, is having little children at times who come with absolutely no ears. So that might be the way he sees I need to develop patience. With you, it may be you have 101 assignment projects to complete or whatever. That might be his way he sees for you. So I'm just trying to say that each of us must develop character, but each of us will be placed in different workshops for this character to be developed. So like for me, I know that I am going to meet children who are not at all trained in these days. So when I get up in the morning, my prayer should be, Lord, you know what little Johnny will do today. I don't. Prepare me now, because I know he'll be one for sure that will give me problems today. If it is the person at the top, you were working with them long enough to know how they act. Tell the Lord in the morning, Lord, you know how things go. Prepare me to act and react in such a different way today that that person will see you and not me. So we need to, with the little insight we have from whatever work, jobs we have, to start focusing on them in the morning in our devotions and asking for real preparation then that will help us later in the day.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Brother Peter, any other? Oh, Brother Tony, no problem. Well, Brother Peter is waiting. I see a comment here with regards to Jesus as a carpenter, and that we can learn lessons there from the life of Jesus as he worked in Joseph's workshop. Brother Peter?
Yeah, Brother Ozzy, what you just said that God put you in a position. You sure that God put you in a position, or you put yourself in that position? Because look, we as, or like, for instance, I want to be a mason. So you've got to learn a trade to be a mason. You're going to learn a trade to be a carpenter, so you be a carpenter. You understand? So you're going to build, you're going out in a firm now to do carpentry or do the masonry. You put yourself in that position, you understand, to be what you want to be. You understand? So we be talking about God put me in that position. It's we ourselves put ourselves in that position, you understand? And we got to deal with people that are carnal. And by we dealing with people that are carnal, we got to allow God to help me now to develop a character, you understand, that is pleasing to Him's sight, that is pleasing to Him, you understand? So, or for instance, you can say to God, you say, A, God, so B. I can tell God that I want a job. And God give me a job, but I'm seeking for a job. So is God put me in that job, or I ask God for a job, and I put myself in that situation? You understand? So if you say that God put me in that job because I asked God for a job, then you say no, that the people know, then I go say no, the people know that I am working with, you understand, that have characteristics that I don't like. I go ask God to help me know to develop a character just like him. You understand, that I get to want to bear what they are actually giving out. So we can look at that scenario, or you can look at any scenario you have said. You understand? We put ourselves in situations, and we go deal with the situation because we are Christians, and we know that people are carnal, have the carnal mind, and we got to live in a Christian manner, in a sense of allowing the Spirit of God to help us daily.
But Peter, don't move yet. So are we saying then, are you saying that if God puts you in a position that you would not have the same challenges?
I am not saying that. I am saying, repeat myself again. I am saying that if you ask God for a job and God give you a job, or you're seeking for a job, and you're along the line, and you find people that in situations that have the carnal mind, everybody have the carnal mind. You understand? I got the carnal mind. A person might have the carnal mind. We have to allow God to develop that carnal mind in a sense of not being, we have to let God develop our carnal mind to be His mind. You understand? Get rid of the carnal mind then, and have Christ's mind. You understand? I am not saying that God will put you in a position, or I am saying that God put you in a position, and we put ourselves in that position by giving ourselves a job. And we got to meet people, the individuals that have the carnal mind. You understand? So everybody around the world have the carnal mind. You understand? In various departments of work. You understand? So as we as Christians, we have to allow the Spirit of God to help us to develop Christian mind character just like Christ.
Okay. Brother Tony?
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I heard you said not too long ago that you feel sometimes you will walk away. And I look at it as people that working for people and so on, as gentlemen say, how stressful it is. Now, you know, I own my own business. And it is stress, I believe, more than somebody working for some person. You don't look at the money and so on, but to run a business and you have people working for you sometimes, it is more stress. Again, there's no sport sometimes when you have a business and somebody call you and tell you they don't have no food, especially some person that was working and lose them job. I don't see in today's date how some person can live without stress. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much. If there, so we can therefore conclude that on that particular point, that so long as each of us in our various walks in life learn to trust God, regardless of the stress that may come with wherever we may be, that will shape not only the way our view, but we can also be a blessing to others, the persons with whom we work. Sister?
Well, looking at our brother, he said he had some stress. Now let's go to Mount Carmel, where we had Elisha was a prophet. He did everything perfectly well as God wanted him to do. Yet, when he heard that Jezebel said she would take his life, what did he do? He ran away. So we have to then give encouragement, not only on the outside of ourselves, but biblical encouragement. If you love a job and you love it and you care about it, you will have stress. But you should not say that you will give up, because God chose him as a prophet And if you choose that work that you love, you will remember and you look at others who kept on until they reached their goal to the end. Because God had them to go after his servant. On that long journey, he even outran the chariot of Jezebel. He outran that. Yet still, he got so afraid. He ran till he was very weary. Then God had to meet him at where he was. So to make a long story short, you cannot say, if you love something, you're doing it and you are on the right path, that you should give up like that and asking your brethren, what they think. Well, what we would encourage you and ourselves and everyone, if you could wear the crown without the cross, you can go on. If you cannot, you could keep fighting, struggling on your knees. Success will come sometime or the other. So, remember that there were others that gone before us. Our example have passed and gone, and there are many examples for us. Jesus did not say he was going to give up. But in the Garden of Gethsemane, he said, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. So it is always human to err. But you have to remember that God is your strength. And he is who you are leaning on. And you must always keep your best foot forward so you'll be able to conquer. One day, the one who is giving you the stress, or you may be giving yourself the stress, because you can't go on with a song, or whatever it may be. One day, the person giving you the stress will tell you, man, there's no man that could ever bear anything, any problem or trial just like you. I want to be like you, that have that Christian mind.
Thanks very much. Brother Nicholas? Brother Peter, Brother Nicholas first, and then...
Huh?
Brother Nicholas, and then yourself.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I think Brother Peter slightly alluded to it in his previous statement, in that sometimes we put ourselves in positions that God don't want us to be in. And I think what else he was alluding to, that sometimes God puts us in positions that we don't want to be in. And I think Sister Nurse says something very important. If you love your job, how many of us love our jobs? How many of us had a job that we absolutely hated, but we had to be there because of responsibilities? That's the issue here. As a friend once told me, everyone has a job, but few people have careers. The issue is not necessarily how to build the character. Your character will be built once you they hold firm in Christ. I myself did a few jobs that I didn't like, but I believe God put me in them because I was reaching a certain goal. So, and I could tell you the truth, I was fired from one of them. I was glad. I smiled walking off the site. But that doesn't mean that that job either was one for you, and some people, even though God put them in position, they are unhappy with what the position is, or the job is that they have been given. So we must then analyze ourselves and find out if this is something, one, that we truly want to do, and two, if this is something that God wants us to do, and how to align ourselves with that.
Okay. Thanks. Brother Peter?
In every job that you do, you always find, you see that it's people dealing with people. And most people are dealing with people, you always get stressed. But the main point I want to say is that as I hear Eureka say about Save to Serve, what he's do is look for chapters and verses dealing with his character faults, and have God and put those things, those chapter verses before God, ask God to help him concerning his situation. So what he should do is, ask you to do, is get chapter verse between the stress, prophets that have stress, you understand? What they do, or what they have done, you understand? Put those texts and chapter verse before the Lord, and have ask God to develop you in a character which is acceptable to His will. You understand? And once you have done that, those things will accomplish. Because everybody's work got stress. People, as I said already, the people got to deal with people. And the majority of this work is carnal. You understand? And you can't get rid of stress, because stress will always be there.
Okay. Thanks very much. I just wanted to shift the discussion a bit. If we look at the first paragraph on the top of that page, 164, there's a particular point that comes out there in that paragraph, which was also brought out in the devotions, and it has to do with our personal service toward each other, and it not being sufficient to give donations, return tithes and offerings, but that there must be personal labor on our part for our fellow men. And to me, this is the most important, albeit it's just one paragraph, but it's the most important aspect in terms of where our time should be spent. Brother Newton? Okay. Just give me 1 minute, and it will come to you. In fact, no, you go ahead, and I will then continue.
Good morning. This is going back to what I thought was the original topic. And I think it's something that we should all consider, because it's talking directly about an area that we can improve in. And it speaks directly. It isn't like a generalization. It is something specific, how we can improve in terms of doing our work quicker and still better. Sometimes we think that in order to do something properly and so on, we have to take a lot of time. This is what it's saying, we can do something properly and yet quickly, if we plan properly and put thought into it beforehand. Look at details, how we can. So there's always ways in which we can improve our work in terms of time and quality. And something that struck me, Sister Nurse is right here, and she was the chief cook at my wedding. And she asked how many people come in, how many people you inviting, what you want, prepare, and so on and so forth. And I realized that everybody at the wedding got adequate food, and when everybody got adequate food, the food was out. In other words, there wasn't a shortage of food, and yet there wasn't a wastage of food. You must ask Sister Nurse how she got that done. In other words, thought, planning, how many people you want, you're preparing for, how much food each person would get. I was amazed, but there's the thing. We often take long to do things thinking that we must do it properly, but a lot of the time it is lack of thought, lack of planning beforehand.
Okay. Thanks very much. Any further comments or questions along that line?
Just a text I wish I wanted to read, which will have probably help us in our discussion formally. And I think the bottom line of the entire former discussion laid with character development, which I think Brother McLean made such an emphasis on. It says there, and whatsoever you do, whatsoever you do, do it heartily as unto the Lord. Whether your job is what you consider a temporal job, a job for a worldly master, or a job where you are preaching a sermon for God, the bottom line is it should be done, first of all, heartily. When a person puts their heart in the thing, they are not considering even the financial reward that will come. But what is happening is it's effort on you, the individual. What does heartliness do to you? Even in the midst of the more severe circumstance, even when you have an employer or employees who are unkind to you, it reacts upon you yourself. And in the midst of those trials, you can have an inner peace. The others are grumbling and fretting, but you are quarreling, but you have an inner peace that they can't disturb. And that, furthermore, therefore, develops, as was said, character. But not only are you called to do what you do heartily, it says also, do it as unto the Lord. So whether you are teaching, digging a grave, or whatever you're doing, it is be done with the consciousness that thou God seest me, that I am doing it for you, Lord, because my reward is in heaven. And though my vision might be meager, though at times the boss might skip a day and I can be justly wrathful with him for not paying me this week, yet I am thinking forward. What awaits me can't be compared with the little trials we have now. And many times we have to put things into that kind of perspective if we are going to make heaven at last. We can cut the cost, understand who is our paymaster at the end of the day. We are grateful for the temporary wages, but there is a wage coming that no insult, no injurious life can compare with the reward. So that text, another one, it says, whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might. And many times your reward is in the joy of seeing a piece of work well done, well executed. And no employer can really pay you or give you a real value for that kind of work. That's all.
Okay. Thanks very much. There were some other areas that I was hoping to cover, but I see we only have a few minutes left. So what I will do next time, we will continue just looking at the first paragraph on page 164, and then we will continue with the last sections of the chapter. But before we close, I just wanted to just give not so much of a testimony, but based on what we were saying this morning in the discussion, this week for me was pretty rough, and I think most of you know my personality in terms of being quiet. And this week I got crossed with many persons, and I sent off a few harsh emails, and I don't mean in a bad way, in terms of being disrespectful, but sometimes it is dependent on your personality. You might find it difficult to do something, even though it is right? And what God showed me coming on to or what I saw that God was showing me coming on to the end of the week was that instead of focusing on the issues and instead of focusing on the stress and the stressors, because based on some of the points that were made, you may approach a task with diligence and you may receive so many calls that no matter how much diligence you put in, you get so many distractions, you're unable to complete the task. And that in itself can cause you to become crossed in terms of not being efficient. And what God showed me was that instead of focusing on those things which are distracting and discouraging, really and truly, my focus should be the salvation of those with whom I work, whether directly within the office, those that I meet with on a regular basis, any new persons, and that is really and truly the paragraph which we will continue with next time. We will come more fully to that. But I'm thankful for the points shared, and I trust that any person or persons who may have been going through similar or even worse, that they may take courage and keep focused on the task at hand, which is character development and bringing honor and glory to our Heavenly Father. So at this time, we are going to pray to close this discussion. Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for the Sabbath school discussion and for the points made. For how many times we have failed to represent you aright, focusing on the things which are temporal, not realizing that the weightier things need to be given much heed to. We ask for your forgiveness and your mercy. And as we study these themes, impress our thoughts, may we surrender fully to you. And in whatever walk in life we may be called or may be in, may we bring honor and glory to your name. Is our prayer for Christ's sake. Amen. At this time, we are going to have a brief break before we rejoin.